very strong on the belief that I'm going to enjoy my mortgage payments and be in my house. Like, I'm not made for the streets, I'm made for the sheets. Like, just no day is wasted. If it brings you joy, then it is not a waste. Hi friends, welcome in. How are you all doing? Thank you so much, first of all, for being here and for all the love on my previous videos. I have appreciated it so much. For those that are new here, my name is Blaze. I do videos about cozy things, bookish things, just basically documenting my life in a quest to become more calm, more present, and just live cozy vibes, because that's what we're about here. I had put on my story about a couple of weeks ago asking if people would be interested if I did a Q&A, kind of like get to know me video, which I absolutely love watching. So I thought, why don't I film one? I like to think I'm very open online with my mental health, with my journey, with things and who I am as a person, but there's always things that people don't know about me, especially for like new friends that have just joined me this year. So I put a Q&A box on my story, and amazingly, I had so many questions submitted, which was absolutely great. Like, it's always such a biggest compliment and blows my mind that people actually not care about what I have to say, but I guess kind of care about what I have to say and like seeing my life and wanting to get to know me. It's just such a nice feeling. So yeah, I have sorted this video kind of in categories. The questions that have come in have kind of been personal or bookish focused. That's kind of been the theme. So I've organised them in more about me and then kind of moving on to the bookish questions. Disclaimer, I've put the questions kind of to my left. So if you see me glancing off, it's because I've put all the questions there to kind of like remind myself. Though I haven't written down any answers, I thought it would just kind of work better if I just speak to you off the cuff. This is probably going to be one of my longest videos on YouTube. So grab a snack, grab a cozy drink, and let's get into the video. So the first question is, what's your fave activity to do no matter how mundane? I really like this question. So I think that it's so important to find joy in the little things, and more so as I've gotten older and kind of like reflected a lot on how I've lived my life and basically become more at peace. I find so much joy in the little things. I think my ideal day and my favorite activities would revolve around some form of cooking. I absolutely love cooking. I find it so calming and therapeutic. I'll put on like a documentary and then just get all my ingredients out and just really take my time. I've also recently got into baking. So I've started baking bread rolls. Definitely be some sort of focused food related activity. Then reading, of course. Absolutely love reading. It's such a therapeutic thing. I'm going to say cleaning. I know a lot of people are like, but I absolutely love cleaning. I find it so, again, therapeutic and really cathartic to just put my headphones on and just clean a space. I am one of those people that doesn't work well in mess or chaos. It's just probably stems from my childhood where I kind of didn't grow up in this really super clean house, if I'm honest. So I find it really peaceful to clean, and it just is one of my loves. I also have started really trying to incorporate doing hobbies, whether that be reading or going for a walk, being out in nature, or, you know, puzzling, something that I used to love as a kid, colouring in, these kind of things. I don't get to do them as much as I would like, but I definitely think those kind of activities bring me so much joy, and they're my fave things to do in a day. I also love spending time with my animals. My cat's a lot older, but my dog, he's my world. And going for a little walk with him, again, listening to good music or listening to a podcast or audiobook and just walking my dog is just something I love and can do every single day. So yeah, those are kind of like my fave activities to do day in, day out. I am very much a homebody, very strong on the belief that I'm going to enjoy my mortgage payments and be in my house. Like, I'm not made for the streets, I'm made for the sheets. Like, just, you will catch me in my bed just chilling. So yeah, that is kind of like what I love to do day to day and my favourite activities. The second question kind of ties into this. It was like, what is your ideal perfect cozy day? And again, I would say my ideal perfect cozy day would be a more coldish day, not too cold, but something where I can wear a cozy jumper. So let's just set the scene as autumn, and I can be inside. Maybe it's a slight drizzle of rain, maybe, because I also like a clear day. So let's just say it's a rainy day. It's a cozy day. I've got the fire going a little bit. We have a fireplace downstairs. I've got my jumpers on. I've got my books, and it kind of feels like I'm hibernating and just, you know, just hibernating and hiding from the world. I think that's as I've gotten older, my ideal day. I used to put such a pressure on myself that if I don't get up and do something, that it's a waste of a day. And I know a lot of people have that attitude, but for me, it's not. I think it's so important to give people grace to do what they want to do. If you want to sit in your house with your snacks, it's a rainy day, you want to get cozy with all your hobbies and not leave your house and not even get dressed, good for you. Like, no day is wasted. If it brings you joy, then it is not a waste. Oh, I love this one. So the next one is top 3 places you want to visit. So I have been very blessed. I've seen a lot of the world already. I've done Southeast Asia when I was in my early 20s. I went around and ended up living in a remote island in Cambodia where there was no cars, and it was just such an amazing experience. I lived with the locals. I ate, swam, drank with the locals, and just had the best experience. I've done Iceland, where I've got a camper van and driven around. I've frequently gone back home to Ireland because I'm half Irish, so I spent most of my life going back there. It's probably my most visited country because I've been going back there since I was like 6. So I've seen a lot of the world already. I've done Asia, America, that kind of thing. So there's some places in Asia I still want to visit, and one of them being Japan. I'm really into anime, manga, that kind of stuff, and I just think Japan just looks absolutely beautiful and somewhere I've always wanted to visit. Number 2 would be, right now I wouldn't go back because I've done quite a lot of America, but I really want to visit New Orleans. It's just, I love jazz, that style of music, the vibes. It just seems like somewhere I really would have the best time. Although I'm not into seafood, and I've told you'll have to get over that. I'm not into seafood. I'm actually vegetarian, so that wouldn't work out. But it doesn't matter. I just want to go to New Orleans, and yeah, it's really high on my list. Third place is probably a place we will go very soon, is New Zealand. Me and Prawn want to do our honeymoon there, but we will, this is a bit morbid, do our honeymoon once our dog is no longer with us, because we wouldn't feel comfortable leaving him with anyone else for 3 weeks. He's our baby and we don't really want to leave him. So we can do like short holidays. We did leave him once and it was okay, but I just don't want to do it again. So New Zealand is high up there. We are both huge Lord of the Rings fans. It's really important to us. It's a big thing in our relationship. So we said we both want to spend our honeymoon in New Zealand. So those are the 3 places I'd like to visit. How long have you and Prawn been together and how did you meet? So I believe it's 8 years this year. We met in 2017 and got together at the end of 2017. We met at work. It's so funny because if you were to describe me and Vaughan, we are the polar opposite. I am chatty, very much an extroverted introvert. He is an introvert but doesn't feel the need to extrovert. He's very quiet, very calm. He's been there in so much of my life. Like, we got together in our early 20s and now I'm 33 and he's 32. It's just, yeah, we've grown together. We bought our first house together, our first car together, our first dog. Like, we've shared so many firsts, and yeah, he's the most amazing person, and he's definitely my person. We've been together all those years, and unless he keeps not putting his socks in the washing basket, I don't see us not spending the rest of our lives together, because he's definitely the person I want to do life with. So yeah. Oh, I really like this one. Have you always been as mindful and calm as you seem, or have you had to work at it? So I'm really glad Vaughan's not here to answer this question. I'm so grateful that people see me as calm and mindful, because I really do believe I am. But this is something that I've definitely had to work on. I am a very emotive person, though I might not show it on like my Instagram. I am always really open about things when I'm struggling, but I wouldn't necessarily film the bits where I'm frantic and manic and having episodes. So I definitely am a very mindful person. I've always kind of been mindful, though I haven't always been calm. That's something that's really taken time. Like, I have ADHD, autism, and mental health issues that sometimes mean I can't regulate myself. But as I've gotten older and kind of learnt to be more understanding and kind and gentle to myself. That's kind of naturally brought this calm, and I'm able to avoid things that trigger me. I'm able to remove myself from situations that I may not want to be in. I'm able to be like, okay, this is okay, your feelings are okay, here's what we need to do. I just think it's come for me with time and a lot of work. You know, I've been in therapy most of my life, in and out of therapy, and I've definitely learned some techniques there. But also, you know, I think having some of the diagnoses later in life has kind of helped me understand myself, so I don't have this inner turmoil. You know, during my early angsty 20s and my teens, I didn't understand myself, and that definitely didn't help me. I just thought there was something wrong with me, thought I was an alien. So I was very angry and very upset all the time because I didn't understand why I couldn't function like other people. So that naturally brought this unrest in me. But as I've gotten older and understand myself more, I've become a lot calmer person, and I try to really live my life gently and kindly and, yeah, peacefully. So definitely a process, but thank you for acknowledging that and seeing that. It's a process every day. Sometimes I still am that emotive and could be fiery, but I think I'm in a better place, and I hope to continue to grow and learn, because we're never too old to learn. Do you miss London? Short answer, no. For those that don't know, I'm a Londoner born and bred. I was born in the Royal Free in Hampstead, and I grew up in Hampstead, northwest London. So I am a Londoner, but I moved out when I was 31 to Wales. That is where Prawn's from, and that is where we bought our house. So it's really interesting because I've lived in London all my life, but I've had the odd occasion where I lived in Cambodia for a couple of months. I went travelling. I had a flat share for a couple of months with a friend, but still in the northwest London area. And I think it's because from early on, as I mentioned, I'm half Irish and my dad lives in Ireland. So I used to spend, since I was 6 years old, all the holidays going back and forth to Ireland, and quite a rural part of Ireland, Southern Ireland. So I loved the countryside, kind of grew up in the countryside as well as the city life. And I think I always had a yearning for nature. Being from Hampstead, we are quite lucky where we have Hampstead Heath, but it is just inundated with people because, you know, that's just the way London is. I grew up without a garden. Sometimes miss the convenience of London's, like all the things we have and shops being open late. But I don't miss how lonely I felt. So burnt out with it, to be honest. I really, really struggled with my life in London, and I felt very incredibly lonely. This is not for all of the people in London. It was just kind of the people maybe I hung around with. There was very heavy focus on going out and having a good time, and that just wasn't for me. And I would try and I just wouldn't fit in. So I kind of lost a lot of friends, or, you know, lost touch with a lot of friends, and I just felt incredibly lonely. Whereas I've moved to Wales, and Wales is just way friendlier. I'll just say that now. The Welsh people are so friendly, and there's such a sense of community where I live. It's a lot slower pace of life. Like every time I go back to London now, I'm like overwhelmed. And I just think, yeah, it kind of goes back to that question of like being calm. London wasn't that for me. I always felt on edge and anxious, and because it's so busy, you're always on the go. Whereas here I've been really able to step back and just take a breather and, you know, really center myself. So yeah, I don't miss London. I have some great family and friends there, but I don't miss it, and I don't think I would ever go back to living there. The next question kind of ties into the same thing. It's what made you move to Wales? And for those that don't know, Vaughan is Welsh. So we have spent lots of times visiting his family here, coming back to here, and I kind of fell in love with where we live now. And then in lockdown, we had just got a puppy, Flame, and his mum said we could live with her because she had a garden, she had the space, which we didn't have in London. And I just fell in love with it, with Wales, the Welsh people. You know, I just felt so at home here. I absolutely love where I live. Like, this is the first time I've just absolutely love where I live. And yeah, it was just kind of a no-brainer. And plus house prices. We did try to get some houses just outside of London, and they fell through, which was obviously a sign. And then we saw this. And I know at first my partner Vaughan didn't want to move back to where he's from. He wanted to stay in London or thereabouts because that's where his job is. But he can commute there every 2 weeks and he's happy with it. So yeah, that's why we moved to Wales. Oh, and of course, it was really important to give my dog a garden. He didn't have a garden for the first kind of 3-4 years of his life. 3-4 years of his life, yeah. Till he was 4, he didn't have a garden, and that was really important to me. When we got him, we always planned to have a garden, but things kind of never worked out like that. And then obviously COVID happened, and then we were saving. We lived in a flat. Don't get me wrong, I walked him like 4 or 5 times a day. He was very, like, he had lived a good life. I'd go out in the pissing rain and walk him no matter what. Whereas, I wanted him to have a garden. I wanted him to have that outdoor space because he just loves being outside. So that was also another huge consideration. We needed somewhere with a bit more space for our dog. Ooh, 2 wedding questions next. So how is the wedding planning going, and wedding destination and venue? So I will tell you kind of like what I can. So in terms of destination, it will be in Wales. It's in this beautiful orangery. So like, first of all, I love plants, big natural light and windows. So I was like, I need that in my venue. So when I looked at Kew Gardens, it was a consideration, but actually it was just too expensive and it just wouldn't work. So we kind of looked in Wales at like what we could get that was kind of similar, and we found this orangery, which was gorgeous. So that is why we chose our venue, and I absolutely love it. I cannot wait. In terms of wedding planning, we've been engaged since 2023 and our wedding will be in 2026. So I did not want to rush. My first thoughts initially when we got engaged was to elope. But then after a few discussions, we realised that it was really important to Vaughan to have a wedding here in Wales so his family could attend. And I completely get that. Whereas that wasn't a huge consideration for me. Marriage is, and weddings are a two-way thing. So we, found that happy medium, and we're doing it in Wales. So that's important to him, and I'm really excited. So planning's going pretty well. I've done more or less everything. And again, because I've had 3 years to kind of think things through, I haven't felt pressured. I haven't wanted to rush. I'm a very organized person despite my ADHD in my day job. Like, that's what I do. I organize and I make plans, I schedule, I do all these things. So applying that to my wedding was really easy. So everything's kind of done. I've got my dress, we've got the venue, we've got the food sorted, I've got my venue stylist and flowers. The only thing I haven't got is a photo booth and a DJ, which I argue is 2 of the most important things. But there's no rush in that. I've still got like over a year to find that. Wedding planning is going great. When people ask me, they're like, how's it going? I'm like, I must seem really nonchalant, but I've kind of done everything. There isn't much left to do. I mean, maybe you ask me this question in 6 months' time and I might be panicking and pulling my hair out, but for the most part, that's another thing. I've got my makeup artist, I've got my hair stylist, everything is just booked. Flame is adorable. Can you tell us his origin story? Flame is adorable. Flame is the absolute love of my life. For those that obviously see the connection, Blaze, Flame, he is just an extension of me. He's my little angel. I get asked a lot why a Rottweiler, because I don't feel like, unless you kind of have a Rottweiler and you know about other Rottweiler owners, it's not a dog you see every single day. I can go months and weeks without seeing a Rottweiler apart from my own. So my dad growing up had a Rottweiler, and I obviously grew up with the pictures of him having a Rottweiler, and then my mum had a half Irish Wolfhound, half Rottweiler. So I think that kind of just at the back of my head always made me have this affinity to Rottweilers. I just think they're the most beautiful dogs ever. I love big dogs personally. All of my like Irish side had Labradors growing up, so that kind of bigger dog. And so when it's kind of like a sad and maybe trigger warning for some discussions of mental health, but when I eventually got Flame, which was 2020, right before lockdown, I was really kind of unwell mentally, and we were looking at options before I basically went into inpatient mental health care. And one of them was suggested that I get an animal or some sort of pet, because I've always been an animal lover. Like, I love animals more than humans. So I had spoke to Vaughan about it, and we were kind of in a rented house at the time, and we definitely weren't allowed pets, but I just thought I was so ill and so frantic. I kind of threw caution to the wind, which is crazy because now I would probably weigh up all the pros and cons about getting another puppy. Whereas then I was like, nope, we're just doing it. So I started looking around, I will be the first to admit I didn't know anything about KC registered. If you're going to get a dog, make sure it is a registered breeder, somebody that's sensible. It's not backyard bred, all of these things. I didn't know anything about that. And, you know, I'm not saying it's an excuse, but I'm being completely honest. I didn't know enough. I just researched about, you know, how you train a dog, how you do this. I didn't research about all the things about breeding. So we got him off a couple in Wood Green, and we met the mum and dad and they were lovely, and I just saw Flame, and this was after a few Rottweilers we'd seen had kind of fallen through or they weren't the right ones. We saw Flame and his brother, and he was the slightly smaller and he was the more quiet one. And I just remember his brother was like really boisterous and Flame was a bit more quiet and did a stress poo in the middle of us meeting him. And I just thought that was hilarious. And I was like, IBS, you're the dog for me. So yeah, that's how I got him. And it was just kind of like a last ditch attempt before, you know, I was going to go into inpatient mental health care, and he changed my life. And then obviously lockdown happened. So it was such a blessing because I was put on furlough and then made redundant for like 6-7 months. So he grew up with me all the time while Vaughan was working, you know, remotely. I was able to do all the training, spend 24/7 with me, and as such we have the most incredible bond. He is such an amazing dog. He naturally has the ability to sense any sort of mental unrest and unease in me, so much so that he used to be an assistant dog for a couple of years. He was self-trained and he was trained to help me with my autism and my mental health, and that was like whether it was panic attack response, deep pressure therapy. Coming with me, he used to come into me with shops like Sainsbury's and places where you're not allowed a dog, but for those that don't know, if you are disabled or have conditions, you can have a service dog is the American term, assistance dog is the UK term, where a dog helps you with your needs, and Flame is that. Unfortunately, he's retired now. He was attacked quite badly and as such has suffered with reactivity afterwards. So I couldn't work him in, you know, in good conscience and good faith because he can be nervous around other dogs and people. So that obviously he can't be an assistance dog anymore, but he still, if I'm upset or I'm crying or I'm starting to have a panic attack, he comes running over, puts his paw on me, licks my face, does whatever he can to try and snap me out of it. And he's just, I owe definitely a lot to him. Like I could talk about this all day, and I'm trying to keep this video not forever long, but I don't think people understand the power of animals, and I 100% wouldn't be here without my dog. He is my absolute moon and stars, everything. I wouldn't change a thing about him. He is definitely a sassy bum, but he's just this amazing ball of energy, and he reminds me so much of me in human form. He's like riddled with anxiety now in certain things, and I'm like, yikes. But it's funny because when I was really bad in 2020 to 2022, I couldn't function. He was strong for me. He was the best dog. He was so easy to train. You know, he made my life so easy. And then when I got better, he started to get anxiety, and now I kind of look after him, and I kind of see it like that. It was really sweet. For 2 years, he just completely held me together, and now I hold him together, and he is our baby. But yeah, that's how I got Flame. And I do want another Rottweiler in the future because I'll be honest, I cannot even tell you how gone I'll be. God forbid when the day Flame leaves me, I don't think I'll be able to function. So I definitely want to get a female Rottweiler in the future. I was looking at the name Ember because it keeps the fire flame theme, or Storm. If it's another boy, it'll be Storm. If it's a girl, it'll be called Ember. So yeah, that's why I have a Rottweiler, and that's why I have Flame. If you could meet someone dead or alive, who would it be? Ella Fitzgerald. I don't even need to think about this. I, as you know, love jazz. It's one of my favourite genres, and I think Ella Fitzgerald was the best singer to ever grace this world. I listen to her all the time. I absolutely love her songs, and I just wish I could meet her. I wish I could have seen her in person. I think that would have just made my entire universe. I'm not really big into this celebrity thing where I'm, if that makes sense, like I don't really be like, oh my God, I really want to meet this celebrity. I'm not really into that. But Ella Fitzgerald is somebody that I would absolutely lose my shit to meet. So 100% Ella Fitzgerald. Fave Disney film. So again, those who are new here, I am obsessed with classic Disney, but it's only classic Disney. It's not like the newer stuff. It's got to be classic Disney. Though I do like Tangled and Princess and the Frog, which is kind of more modern. But I grew up on a lot of classic Disney films, and that's kind of what I went to bed to. If I wasn't being read to, I would watch a classic Disney film. So I just love it. My favourite Disney films, it's a really hard one. So from classic Disney, it would definitely be Beauty and the Beast. From non-classic Disney, but an old school one, would be 100% Nightmare Before Christmas. Tim Burton is one of my favourite directors alongside Wes Anderson. I love anything kind of gothic, creepy, weird. That's how I grew up on like that creepy Halloween stuff. So definitely The Nightmare Before Christmas. Yeah, so those are my two favourite Disneys. Ooh, I got asked to do a tattoo tour. So let me just quickly change my t-shirt because I don't feel like this is the best one to show you all my tattoos. Okay, so I have a lot of tattoos and I'm going to try and show you them. Well, the ones that I can. So let's start off with the most hideous one, my name on my wrist. I got Blaze tattooed on my wrist when I was 13, and I am a walking example of why you should never get a tattoo at 13 years old, because what the frig frog is this? We don't talk about it. Underneath that, I've got a heart, a red love heart that I got a few years ago to kind of symbolise mental health. All my tattoos have some sort of meaning. Even the Blaze one, at the time, it was like to always remember who you are, like I'm some sort of celebrity. But there's always some sort of theme or meaning behind my tattoos. I also have a shooting star. I got that because I was obsessed with The Simple Life and I love Nicole Richie, and she had a shooting star, so I was like, I'm going to get one. I'm glad that's kind of the only tattoo I followed off anybody on TV. So then we kind of go on, oh, no, sorry. I've got this tattoo here, which is a sunflower, and I believe these are called Japons. I got this in Bali, which I think the story is pretty rogue. I met this tattoo artist online, saw his work on somebody. He came and got me from my hotel, and then I literally got taken past these beautiful rice fields to his little studio whilst like just on the back of his motorbike. Pretty rogue, but he was lovely. So he did my tattoo, and it was the only tattoo I've got abroad. And yeah, I just think, please do your research if you're going to do that. I was maybe a little bit too nonchalant, but it's basically, I love flowers and I love nature, so that's why I got that one. Then we go onto my sleeve, which, let's start from the top. This has got dead roses on it and it says now and forever. So this is my arm, first of all, is nature meets horror, so you'll see that in the theme. This is a line from Nightmare Before Christmas, and the dead roses obviously kind of go in that spooky theme. I have some flowers here, which goes into the nature theme, but I want to add something to it, though I'm not sure what. I have a death moth. Silence of the Lambs is one of my favourite films, and yeah, I just think they're so cool. Yeah. Then I got this cover up. I used to have a peace sign under here, but this is my kind of Queen of the Damned tattoo. You can see she's got like a skull crown, and then she's got beautiful flowers underneath, so that's why I got her. I think she's the only face I've got. Then I have another flower piece on my elbow to kind of like cover that up. I have Flame's name here, as you can see. Then I have this, which is a coffin shape with flowers, a moon and a bat. Again, that horror meets nature. I have my hand tattoo, which is a rose and a spider. And then my other tattoo, which is a snake and flowers. So that's kind of like my arm. I do need to get this gap filled, and there's a few more things I want to put on here, but that's kind of like my sleeve. Then we go on to the foot tattoos, which I don't know how I'm going to do this. So I have Pennywise, excuse my dry foot, Pennywise tattooed on me because I love the film It. It's my comfort film. I have a mandala on this thing, which looks like a black blob. And I have a really bad foot tattoo right there. I have a big one on my hip, which I'm not going to show you. And what else do I have? I have no back tattoos, but I have so many more plans to get more tattoos. I absolutely love piercings and tattoos. I've had to take all my ear ones out, but I love tattoos and I plan to get many, many more. I don't know how many I've got off the top of my head, and I'm trying to think if I've forgotten any. I think I haven't, but I essentially want to get more. I think after my wedding, I'll definitely get like a neck tattoo, start finishing off my legs, adding more things, because I want some Lord of the Rings tattoos in there. I want a Buffy tattoo, just things like that. So yeah, that's all the tattoos. Can you talk about your autism and ADHD diagnosis and process and next steps if not too painful? So since that question was submitted, I have received my ADHD diagnosis, and I already had my autism diagnosis. It's not too painful to talk about. I am so open with my mental health and neurodivergence on this page because I don't see why we should be made to feel ashamed of who we are. I think it's so important to talk about it, to normalize it and bring awareness. So yeah, I of course don't mind talking about it. It's kind of it's a really broad subject, but I'm going to try and keep it simplified, but also hit the right points. I've always suffered with mental health. I had my first panic attack at, I believe, like 7 or 8, which is incredibly sad for me because, you know, nobody should suffer with panic attacks, but especially not a young child. So there was always kind of something there. And in terms of the ADHD side, I was always told in every single one of my school reports that I'm super intelligent, but I can't focus. Super intelligent, but needs to focus more. Super intelligent, but can't concentrate. Super intelligent, but easily distracted. So, you know, that was kind of always the common theme of our parents' evenings. And I remember my mum being incredibly angry with me all the time after a parents' evening because she couldn't understand why, you know, she was constantly getting told that there was something wrong. And I give her a lot of grace about it now. Like at the time it was like, you know, it created a lot of issues for us, but this is her first time her being a mum. She never had a child before, especially not one with autism and ADHD. She also, I feel, was failed, and I feel I was failed because so many people had clearly said there was something wrong, but nobody did anything about it. And I think my mum saw it as, you know, the teachers are kind of the professionals, and she thought, well, you know, if they're saying I just need to concentrate more, then obviously I need to stop being naughty and just concentrate more. So yeah, I think, you know, and again, I grew up in the 90s where we are a lot better now with understanding and diagnosing, and kind of a lot of the models of ADHD and autism are focused around men and boys. So, you know, I understand that had I been maybe born now, things would look a lot different for me. So I've always suffered, and I've been in and out of counselling, and people have always thought there was something, and I don't say wrong because there's nothing wrong with being autistic and ADHD, but people could see I wasn't fitting some of the not normal, but the normal, quote unquote, normal standards. So I struggled a lot with things. And yeah, this just happened again and again. And I was misdiagnosed, which is often the case, with a personality disorder. So I was misdiagnosed when I was in my mid-20s with emotionally unstable personality disorder. And I was like, okay. So I was in outpatient mental health treatment for that. And then as we got to know each other, just some things weren't fitting. I was very lucky that I had a great person at the time who was like, I don't feel like this fits. There's something more here. And I had been told before that by a therapist, they thought I had autism, but they weren't in a position to diagnose me. So that happened in my mid-20s. And then again, I was going to the sessions, and she was like, something's not right. So she was like, I think you might have autism. I want to put you forward for a test. So I was like, oh, again, I didn't really understand autism at the time. I thought autism was, you know, that stereotypical somebody super brainy who loves maths. I didn't know anything about it. And I also didn't understand what it looked like in females. So I was a bit like, okay. I mean, go ahead. Like, I'm not the expert here. And then she was convinced. I met with a psychiatrist in the unit, and they were also convinced, but they didn't feel they could diagnose me until I went through the Autism Society in London. So I was on the wait list for a couple of years. And again, this is really simplifying it. And I was diagnosed. And wow, that brought about some feelings, friends, because what people don't understand is when you get diagnosed, especially later in life, you look back at your whole entire existence and you question everything. And I'm still here and can tell this tale, but that is not always the case. There were times I really felt like I didn't belong on this planet, and that was purely because I was misdiagnosed and mistreated and misunderstood. So yeah, it was really kind of difficult with the autism one to look back and be like, wow, my life could have been so different, because I probably would have benefited to going to a specifically autism and ADHD school or a school for neurodivergence. I definitely struggled in school a lot, and the setting, and I think I just would have benefited from going to a school that kind of knew and understood my needs. So yeah, I felt like a lot of my life was wasted which is normal when you first get diagnosed. Now I do not see it like that. It's all been a stepping stone to this moment, to this right here. And I choose to have that view, because if you have the other one where I'm angry, it will just eat me alive. And I don't want that. I don't want to be angry anymore. This is who I am. There is nothing wrong with me. And I'm going to make my life as beautiful and amazing as possible. So yeah, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes I forget this beautiful, positive feeling and I am angry. But for the most part, I'm grateful of everything that's led to this now. And with my ADHD, it's quite raw at the moment. So I am in outpatient mental health care since I've moved to Wales. I've always been in it. I've always been under some sort of care. And because I take medications that require me to be checked up on every 2 months, I go into appointments every 2 months. And I said to my psychiatrist, I think I've got ADHD. And he was like, okay, what made you think this? And I had to explain it. And I brought it up a couple of times and I had to fill out a form, bring loads of evidence from my childhood. He had to bring an impact statement from my mum and talk to my mum about my childhood. And I was diagnosed 2 weeks ago and I start my medication soon for it. So that one's quite new. And funnily enough, that diagnosis was, again, the anger. I felt really angry. I always knew when I got my autism diagnosis, I always knew there was something else. And at the time, I didn't realise you could be both autistic and have ADHD. And then it wasn't until, thank goodness for TikTok sometimes, I was able to see that you can actually have both. And I was resonating with what people were saying. I was like, oh, this makes sense, because the autism one, yes, a lot of things I have, but there were some things where I was like, this doesn't fit with the autism. Like, what is it we're missing? So I said to them, all the reasons, submit the paperwork, did the forms, like long documents explaining why I thought I had it, like all the reasons. And I spoke to my psychiatrist for, who's actually a specialist, for a good few meetings about it, and then I got diagnosed. So yeah, that's the process on that. I know I'm very grateful. Mine was kind of done within like 4 or 5 months. That is not the case at the moment. Unfortunately, the wait lists are so long. You can go private, but I think once you go, I could be wrong, once you go private, it doesn't mean you have access to the medication, which I didn't care about at first. It was more trying to understand myself, and having the diagnosis kind of, again, allowed me to understand myself that a little bit more. But hearing about the medication and seeing how it could definitely help alleviate some of my struggles, I'm very keen to try that and see how it goes. So yeah, that's a very short synopsis of what happened. And all I can say is, if you believe you have something or something doesn't fit, please advocate for yourself. I know it's incredibly hard, but please do. I have forgiven myself so much since getting my diagnosis, after I dealt with all the wave of emotions of sadness, of grief, and but I've learned to really love myself in a way I wasn't able to before my diagnoses. So yeah. And also, my DMs are always open if anybody wants to talk about that grief process of receiving a diagnosis, or you're struggling, or you want to know where to start. I often speak with people who seek advice and just want a bit of comfort, who are going through their diagnosis or just having a bad day. I have all the time in the world for that. So please, if you want to contact me and talk about it, or just ask me more questions about my journey, my DMs are always open. What's one thing you would never compromise on? I like this one. And this is a great way to round down the bits about me, because then the next questions are all bookish. Kindness. I am an incredibly caring, kind, and empathetic person. Sometimes maybe a little bit to a fault. I know that I definitely have people-pleasing tendencies, and people have definitely taken my kindness for weakness. And it is so funny, because I think maybe I project also sometimes this really like strong, confident character. And that couldn't be further from the case. I'm riddled with insecurity and anxiety, but I come across as like really strong. But I'm very soft, so I have a really soft centre, and kindness is big. So that's one thing I would never compromise on. I know the world can feel incredibly dark, incredibly scary, and if we let it, it can really turn you angry and bitter. But I won't ever stop or compromise my kindness. I want to leave this world a kinder place than I found it. I want to be kind to nature, kind to animals, kind to those less fortunate than I, and yeah, kindness is just at the core of who I am, so I would never compromise on that. I have very strong morals and beliefs, and yeah, kindness is one of them. I mean, there's definitely others. We could talk about loyalty and all the other things I value, but the main one I think is being kind to people, because you never know who needs it, and I really, truly believe that. Okay, this is definitely the final one. I missed this. How do you overcome your doubts and fears and do the things you want to do? I got to my 30s and I was like, I am so bored of feeling this way. And I still have those feelings, but I also am like, fuck it, I'm going to post that video, I'm going to post that content, I'm going to post this, I'm going to do what makes me happy, no matter what. I am sick of being my biggest hater and being my biggest, critic. I think by just being like, I'm going to do it anyways, that attitude has definitely helped me. And like I said, I still struggle with those days where I'm less confident, where I'm insecure, where my brain tells me everybody hates me and I should just literally throw my phone in the river. But those moments do pass, and the feeling I get from posting my content of, getting messages of people who resonate with it, or it's really helped, or who just, amazing compliments that people say, oh, I really love your content, and just you talking, I think those have definitely helped my confidence. So a lot of it I do owe to the people on my page who support me. But I also kind of got to my 30s and I was like, life is short. I am very grateful to even have reached my 30s. Life is for living. I'm just going to continue to do what I want to do. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. We move on. And I know maybe that's not the best answer, but that's what's really helped me overcome a lot of my fears. And also understanding that fears and doubt are very normal, but usually it's just like a little demon voice in your head that isn't real. So I try and look at it like that. And we move on to the book section of the Q&A, which is really cool. Okay, so please tell us your bookish goals and inspirations for this page. So it's crazy. I don't actually have any goals for my YouTube and my cozy kind of Bookstagram page. I just want to keep making friends and keep reading books and keep being able to talk about them. I love connecting with people. I love reaching people. I love sharing my love of books with people. So I know that may seem like a really rubbish answer, but I don't actually have any goals. It's just to continue doing what I'm doing and continue organically making friends. I've always said it's never about the followers for me. It's just about the people who are here and choose to be here. So I'm not looking to get to 10k. That's not what really matters. What really matters is having, even if it's just 5 people, having those genuine connections and friendships. And I've been so blessed where I've made so many friends through Bookstagram and YouTube. And that's all I could ask for. So I kind of feel like I'm living out my aspirations for the page. But yeah, just to continue to share my love of cozy things. Favorite spread edge books in your collection? So I actually couldn't pick one. I had to pick 2, and both of these I haven't read. But first of all, let's get involved at the edges. I think they're so beautiful. They're both blue. So the first one is Immortal by Sue Lynn Tan. I just think this is one of the most beautiful sprayed edge books I have ever seen, and it just looks so perfect on my shelves. I haven't read this yet. Prince Without Sorrow, which just looks so beautiful. I know there's a green version of this, and usually green is my favorite color, but this one, it reminds me a little bit of The Jungle Book, and I just think it's so perfect. So I was asked how I organize my shelves, and I thought I would show you kind of like how I've done it. So with this, I've kind of done like dark academia, moving into fantasy. So this is definitely fantasy hardbacks, but obviously I've put all the sprayed editions and sprayed edges kind of like here, and I've got loads more coming which will go there. So that's kind of how I've done this shelf as you look at it. And then I've put more like paperback fantasy at the top, historical fiction kind of there, and then literary fiction at the bottom with some other hardbacks that I just already have on my shelves. They're kind of repeats, and I've chosen to use the sprayed edge version. Then if you look to the right, which is the one closest to the windows, these are kind of like fantasy, but more historical fiction fantasy at the top shelf. Then I've kind of done cozy hardback fantasy, so like maybe lower stakes. The Spell Shop is gorgeous. I haven't read these 3. I'm currently reading this one. Then I've kind of done down here a little bit of TJ Klune and smaller hardbacks, but also like kind of like Korean and Japanese fiction with just another small book that is kind of like in the cozy category. Sorry, I've just completely ruined that. Then I've kind of got literary hardback here on the shelf down. So like The Compound, The Wedding People, which I absolutely love, Catfight, things that are just not kind of fantasy or not kind of like historical fiction. Then I've got fantasy down here again, the V.A. Schwab books. They are not at the top because there was no room, so I just put them down here. And then this is empty, and this is currently housing all my camera equipment, but I'm going to move over. Then we get to the middle one, which has like kind of like series. There's one series on here, disclaimer, I'm not going to talk about. I'll just skip over it. But we have Sarah J Maas, Sarah J Maas, Sarah J Maas. This was a gift. This is the Hunger Games, the Belladonna series. And then we have the Empyrean series. So that's kind of what the middle one is for. Then this shelf is my thrillers. So you know I am a thriller lover. So this is kind of like, I tried to colour code it as best as I could with thrillers. And then, yeah, this is all the collection. And in here at the bottom of the cupboard, I have the ones that I have read. So this will be all the ones I've read so far, if not on my Kindle. And I do give a lot of them away. So these are the kind of ones that I've kept. Probably will give more away, but these are what's kept in there. Then we have more. So this is kind of like murder mystery hardbacks, and so this is the same, but these are kind of more series. So the Richard Osman I've put together, the Claire Mackintosh, the Maid series I've put together. Then we have these ones that I haven't read, a couple of these, apart from The Grapevine, which I absolutely adore. Then up here we have more thrillers in hardback, and yeah, thriller hardbacks. I don't know if this is a horror, but more thrillerish hardbacks. Up there I have some sprayed edge ones that I fell down and I need to pick them up, but they're quite high up. Then down here we have some thrillers that I've already read. These are books that I've already read, and I will obviously add more as the time comes. Then these are my horrors. Some of this I've read, I believe I read these too. This is a special edition with beautiful sprayed edges, but I felt like I don't have enough horror books, so I wanted to kind of keep them all together. So these are horror hardbacks, and then these are horror paperbacks that I kind of just kept, and this will definitely be where I'm going to in the October months, even though I argue every day is spooky day, but this is kind of like, I will be reading these in October time, apart from the Stepford Wives, which I did read this year. So yeah, that is how I organise my shelves. Incredibly lucky. Vaughan built these for me for my birthday, and I absolutely love them. Have you always been a reader? Yes, I have always been a reader. I was read to a lot as a child, which I definitely think instilled that in me. So, you know, I grew up in the time where we didn't really have iPads and phones. So a lot of it was either I was watching a VHS of my favourite Disney films, or The Little Princess and Secret Garden, or I was reading. And I had a very vivid imagination. Everybody will tell you that about me as a child, that I was such an imaginative child, and I used to like play make-believe and love going into these fantasy worlds. So reading was just a great escape for me as well. So I've always read and loved reading. And the next kind of questions that tie into this is like a book you remember from your childhood vividly and a book that got you into reading. So obviously, as I said, being read to as a child before I went to bed, there was a load of Enid Blyton books that I read. Naughty Schoolgirl, The Famous Five, as I was growing up. But what I remember the most is a book called Carbonell. It's about a cat. I think it's called Carbonell, King of Cats. I will pop it in the screen. That I read when I was younger, and I just absolutely loved it. It's just one of those books from my childhood that's always stuck with me. And I really do want to get a edition of it. I don't have it on my shelves, but I'd love to like read it now through like my adult eyes and kind of see what it feels like and like the memories it brings back. But yeah, that's definitely a book I remember vividly, and a book that definitely got me into reading, or kind of like kept me into reading. Okay, and the final question: what are your 5-star reads of the year so far? So I've had quite a few, and you can find them on my Goodreads. I've been quite lucky where I've kind of had one each month, I believe, but two that stick out. I'm going to mention two on here because I have done wrap-ups before and spoke about all the 50 books I've read this year in another video on my channel. But the two that always stick out are, for me, The Wedding People by Alison Espach and The Grapevine by Kate Kent. These are two books that I still think about all of the time. Very different, but so amazing. I highly recommend these books. Please, please, please read them. They are so good. So very different. I think The Grapevine for me is just so much fun. It was just a great exploration of so many rich characters with rich stories, heartbreaking, funny, sad. Like, it was just such a great mixture. And because I got this for the cover alone, which is gorgeous, I didn't have any expectations going in, and it completely blew my mind. This was a book where I had a lot of high expectations because it was all over social media, but it 1,000,000% lived up to every single bit of the hype. And I searched so high and low for this hardback with the specific cover, and I just absolutely love it. Like, it is just a book I recommend to everyone to read. So yeah, those are my 2 favourite books of the year so far that I think deserve honourable mentions. My goodness, we did it, friends. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but I hope you enjoyed it. I've absolutely loved filming a video like this. I love watching videos like this, and I hope it's kind of helped you get to know me. I definitely think I'll do one of these again in the future because it has been fun. I hope I haven't bored you too much. If you have liked this video and you're not subscribed, please could you consider subscribing, because I absolutely appreciate and love it. Please give this a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Any comments, I love reading your comments. I love replying to your comments. Just let me know what you thought about this, and if there's anything we can relate to, something you didn't know about me, just let me know. As always, have a lovely week, and thank you so much for being here and all of the love so far.